Paddy's gearing up for the GAA All-Ireland Football and Hurling. For all live TV championship games, it's money back as a free bet if your losing first goal scorer scores a goal anytime. Max £20. Excludes shops. T's and C's apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Hello and a very warm welcome to the GAA Postcast. I'm David Jennings from the Racing Post and I'm delighted to be joined by former Galway hurling manager Anthony Cunningham and hotshot GAA odds compiler Paddy Ahern from our sponsors Paddy Power. Now lads, this weekend we've got the Leinster hurling final, we've got the Munster football final, 4 football qualifiers, 4 hurling qualifiers including the crunch clash between Kilkenny and Limerick. So we could be still here previewing the matches until Monday morning if we're not careful, and even then knowing us we probably wouldn't be able to predict the outcome. So we have plenty to get through, but before we get stuck into the action, we'll kick off with our normal 5 quick fire questions for our 2 panellists. So Anthony, we're going to start with you, and your first question, and a very interesting one, is if you could pick one county to manage in 2018 apart from Galway, who would it be?
Good man, David.
This is like the first question in a job interview now.
Yeah. I suppose over the next couple of years, next 2 or 3 years, if you're looking at 2018, you would think that Limerick would be a county and that would come through. There are a lot of underage players, have success at under 21, probably favourites to win under 21 championship this year, or close favourites to win it. So they seem to have a lot of good hurlers coming through, and I think it'll take a couple of years, but I'd punt for Limerick.
So you heard it here first, listeners. The seeds have been sown. Anthony Cunningham, the next Limerick manager. Betting suspended.
Didn't say that. You asked me who. So I think they have a lot of potential. Yep.
They certainly do. And Anthony Cunningham could be the man to get that potential out of them. So question number 2. There was 1 slot left in the half-forward line of a team you manage. Who do you pick? TJ Reid or Lee Chin?
Oh, that's the young protagonist against, I suppose, the old stager. Like the young bull and the old bull there, really, you know. So two brilliant players. But I suppose you'd still go for the proven stayer, shall we call him, TJ Reid.
Okay, so you're going with proven quality. Number 3, if you could make one change and one change only to the current format of the All-Ireland Hurling Championship, what would it be?
Difficult, but I think the way that's planned and what's produced or what's potentially going to be produced with the Super 8, I think is a very good way of going, and home and away definitely bring a lot of novelty. So yeah, I would say that at an overall level, but I'd like that there be more matches for the Carlow, Laois, Westmeath, who have produced very good matches this year, the developing counties. It's just a pity that a team like Carlow won't have a match now until next January, February, and produced a very high entertaining and good quality match last Sunday against Laois. So that would be a change that developing county championship will run in parallel with the qualifiers and the senior championship.
Interesting. Okay, number 4, one for the Rebels here. At what stage will Cork exit the All-Ireland? The All-Ireland quarter-final, the All-Ireland semi-final, the All-Ireland final, or lifting the Liam McCarthy? Will they go all the way?
Yeah, I think Cork won't exit the final or won't exit the championship until the first Sunday in September. I think they'll go all the way to the final, and you get to a final, I think they have a great chance. But they definitely have backed up their Tipperary performance with a very well managed performance the last day against Waterford, and I fancy them to beat Clare, and they're only one step away then from the first Sunday in September. So yeah, will they go on and win it to have as good a chance as any other team?
Okie dokes. So Cork to get to the All-Ireland final for Anthony Cunningham. Okay, question number 5. Who would you rather back to lift the Liam McCarthy? Kilkenny at 9-1, Waterford at 11-1, or Wexford at 12-1?
Yeah, well, it's probably Wexford or Kilkenny are going to be knocked out before they get to a quarter final. Or Tipperary, they're the 3 teams that's in there. Wexford, if they win on Sunday in the semi-final, it's going to be very close. Then if they lose, they're still in a quarter-final. But I suppose if Kilkenny got on a roll of the 3 counties with the experience they have and the price that you're offering there, it would be hard to turn them down at that price.
So it's Kilkenny at 9-1. So there's Anthony's 5 quickfire questions. Now on to you, Paddy. Your 5 questions. Number 1 is, what was the biggest bet struck with Paddy Power last weekend, and who was it on?
Yeah, the biggest bet last weekend, there was actually one gentleman had €17,500 on Carlo at 4-11 to beat London last week. And rather him than me, to be honest, I'd say. Like if he was listening on KCLR or whatever FM, I'd say he was behind the couch for the last couple of minutes back because Brendan Murphy was gone and they just about got over the line by a point. But yeah, I tell you,
well, I'll tell you now, I'd say if you were to price up what the biggest bet would have been on last weekend, you would have got a big price about it being on Carlo.
Absolutely, for sure. Like, you know, because every now and again with these Dublin kind of 1 to 100 shots, somebody might come in and try and buy a bit of money, but this was one that was very unforeseen. And
I presume over the last 5 years, if you had added up the amount of money put on Carlo in any of their matches in the last 5 years combined, it wouldn't reach 17,500.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was one that took us aback, and I tell you what, we very nearly kept it, but we'll go again.
Interesting. Okay, number 2. Who have been the hardest team to price up in the football and hurling championship so far in 2017?
Yeah, in the football championship, it's a similar team. It's probably Carlo, really, when you're going by results. Like, obviously, you wouldn't want to be laying 18 grand bets in Carlo every weekend, but, like, you know, we had them outsiders at home against Wexford, and they were very impressive. And then, you know, we underestimated them somewhat against Dublin as well, throwing up a 19-point handicap when they stayed well within that. And then I personally thought myself they were way too short last week. I thought going to Ruislip was going to be a bit of a come down after, you know, the high of that Dublin match, and that price, you know, the results suggested that price was too short. And, you know, even in the next round again, then, like, you're like with these Division 4 teams, you're obviously not going to games, you're not seeing them on TV as much, so I wouldn't say there's guesswork, but sometimes they can be kind of difficult to price. So in the football, I'd probably have to say Carlo. And in the hurling, it's probably the Dublin hurlers really at the minute. Just because you have a good level of like where they're at and stuff like that. Obviously they're not as good as they have been the last couple of years, but then you even look at the second game of the league down in Cork when they played Cork, and Cork went off 1-6, and then the young guns really showed like they stepped up and played really well. And, like, you know, they're 10-point favs now against Laois this weekend, so yeah, there's a lot of a bit of an unknown with them too.
Okie dokes. Number 3. Who is Paddy Power's worst loser in the Footballer of the Year market?
The Footballer of the Year market, I think it's still currently David Moran at the minute, but around this time of year, you know, as the games kind of go on, you see kind of the prices seem to harden up a bit, and, like, you see a couple of decent bets, like we had a decent bet on Paul Geaney there this week, but currently it's probably David Moran.
Okie dokes. Number 4. Which of your own anti-post bets are you most smug about at the moment?
Yeah, this is my favourite question, because anyone who knows me is I'm an absolute blatant dirty after-timer. I just keep loving around boasting about stuff. I am pretty happy with David Burke All-Star bets. I think he's just like he's taken away, and he's probably the most consistent hurler in the country. And I did have a bet on Donald Kingston to be top goal scorer in the championship.
Oh, what price was that?
25-1, and he's 3 goals got now. So if he could do something this weekend, if they could get over Clare, then he'll keep getting more chances. So. And
what price are you on David Burke for an All-Star?
David Burke was 100-30 for the All-Star at the start.
What you're going to say? Right, okay. Nice. 2 nice positions to be in. It could all go pear-shaped, as you well know.
Absolutely. Oh, geez, I know that too well, yeah.
Okay, number 5. Who would you rather back to lift the Sam Maguire? Kildare at 33-1, Donegal at 40-1, or Monaghan at 50-1. And just to let you know, I'm not making up these prices. These are their actual prices with Paddy Power. So Kildare at 33-1, Donegal at 40-1, or Monaghan at 50-1.
I'd probably say Kildare. Obviously, they're going to be up against in the Leinster final, but it's a position that they kind of used to be in. Like, I don't think it's going to really knock them if they lose that match, and they're going to be in they're going to be in a round after Donegal and Monaghan come in. Donegal obviously have this hard side of the qualifier draw, and I was really, really disappointed with them against Tyrone. Monaghan as well. They're going to have another. They're going to have another round to go through, and, like, you know, I don't think Kildare are going to fear them all that much after last weekend, so I'd probably say Kildare 33.
Kildare 33-1. My colleague Justin O'Hanlon has got even more excited about the Lily Whites now after that. He's Kildare's number 1 fan. So there we go, lads. There's the 5 quick fire questions for our panellists. So moving on, just a quick reflection on last weekend's action. And Paddy, we'll come to you first. Is there any chinks at all in this Dublin team? We were beginning to doubt them after the Carlow match. Their league final defeat how foolish we were.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously hard to see the Kings last weekend, but like I still think there are a couple that are there. If you look at that first point that Conor Callan scored, it was basically like, I think it was Fenton got the ball in 15 yards of space, dropped the ball in front of him, and he had another 15-20 yards of space. And I know Westmeath, it was a bit of an experiment to see how good they were and everything like that. But if you do let Dublin do that in Croke Park, they'll just eat your life, I don't think we learned a thing about them last weekend. I would be kind of punting more to the league final, to the Carlow game to a certain extent, to see how you could kind of frustrate them a small bit. And I think they're going to give them a game. They're, we didn't see it last weekend because the likes of Mannion and when they emptied the bench with O'Gara and McMenamin, they all played really well. But I wouldn't let last week convince me that they should be even running for an All Ireland or anything like that.
What do you make of them, Anthony?
Yeah, I think you'd have to. I'd agree there with Paddy that Westmeath were really, really poor and really weren't at the pace of it at all. Gave huge amount of room to the forwards and to, any day. Actually, as you said, Fenton and those attacking, they just opened them up. Look at, they're going to be there at the finish. They've such a huge bench as well. I mean, I think they scored 2-5. I think between them coming on off the bench, and to have that extra gear. If they are in trouble, that's going to be very hard for even the Kerrys to stop. If they are, if it's an even Steven game with 10 minutes to go, that's a huge trump card, I think, in the latter stages of the championship, which are going to be that bit tighter. But yeah, you'd still fancy Tyrone and Kerry to give them a very good, very, very good match. But I think it's down to the three of them really. And we'd see big wins for Dublin, there's no doubt. And I think they're fired up as well now because of the Jim Connolly incident as well. And they're just taking no messing, and I would say some of that is really to keep them fired as well. Some of their commentary afterwards, which was a surprise, I'd have to say that. But thought there was probably no need for it really. But they're making a statement, and they're probably making a statement as well. There is a small bit of undercurrent happening there with Kerry before Kerry and Eamon Fitzmaurice in the league final. And commentary about referees and Dublin playing to the referees and that audience. So I think there's a bit of gamesmanship going on there as well. So that that could affect them, and stuff like that could backfire on you as well. But
now,
really,
Anthony,
really
you're a manager at the highest level, All Ireland finals. You're a player at the highest level, but particularly a manager. This dance by Jim Gavin, what's your thoughts on it? To outsiders looking in, it's a little bit petty to me. At the end of the day, it's a game of football. It's not life or death. And I found that press conference afterwards, I thought it was kid stuff, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a bit. I suppose nothing. I mean, you could have nothing but admiration for Jim Gavin. I'd say that, but it was probably a bit whingy and a bit giving out about something that was a bit petty. To us, look at different managers at different stances, and my view on all that is that you just have to be agnostic to a lot of the commentary and a lot of the stuff that goes on either at the Sunday game or on the papers or on the social media in particular. So you cannot allow yourself or the team to get sucked into that. And that has to be the golden rule, because if you do, you'll lose focus. You mightn't think you are, but you will lose focus. And you will start, somehow believing that mantra that's there. So, yeah, I'd be surprised. I was surprised at it, to be honest. But I think there's also a bit of gamesmanship there. Dublin are very, 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 media-wise, very highly organised. Jim would have a communications analyst there and a guidance person there on that. That's hired in the backroom team for that purpose solely. So definitely that wasn't sort of off the cuff. He said it was pre-planned, and there was an overall plan there. But I think it's more that they'll try and stand up for themselves. I said they were taken aback a small bit by the league and the pre-league final commentary by Eamon Fitzmaurice. I think some of that could have moulded that as well. But for Jim Connolly, he's put his hand up in fairness there to the chap. He's smashing fell off the field. They're extremely well grounded. He's put his hand up and said, I'm taking my punishment. I don't want an appeal. So what happened, and he's got on with it. And I think Dublin should have got on with it and stopped doing what they did the last day or two. It was a bit petty.
Absolutely, I'd have to agree with you there. Now, as you all know, we love to blow our own trumpets around here, so it's worth pointing out that those who listened to last weekend's show would have heard me put up Paul Mannion for man of the match in Dublin v Westmeath. We might have got almost everything else wrong, but a 12-1 winner ought to have shoved away some of the slagging anyway. When you tip a fella to get man of the match in every single game he plays in, he's going to come up trumps once every so often.
It was your third M. Mayo and Monaghan and Mannion, so we won't talk about the first two.
No, he certainly won't. And quickly on Monaghan, lads, what in the name of God happened to them? The biggest shock of the summer so far, Paddy?
Yeah, it probably is. I kind of take a bit of a different view of it. I'm not too sure what happened to Monaghan. I just think Down came with an absolute performance for the ages, Like, it was real kind of a throwback to the old Down teams and team in the 90s or whatever. Like I thought they played really, really well. And the thing was, after the goal, they went, I think they went 6 or 7 clear. And, Monaghan didn't lie down. Monaghan came back and had a chance to draw the game, obviously, with the McCarran free at the end. But I would definitely say it was more a real barnstorming performance than Down rather than Monaghan being really poor. That'd be my view on it anyway.
I thought Monaghan were a bit off it, to be honest. I thought their touch and the frustered a bit with the ball and lost. I thought they lost a good bit of easy ball, and when you summarise it in the finish, it was the penalty they gave away really from a kick out that shouldn't have gone short. Really, Down pushed up and they looked in trouble with. He looked in trouble with trying to find these outfield players for a few of the kickouts, and that kickout wasn't on, and it was a mistake. So that was just symptomatic, I thought, of simple errors that Monaghan made. But coupled with that, Down brought a lot of swagger to it and forced the game, but Monaghan should have been able to deal with it, and were disappointed, and they looked a bit. They were off by a couple of degrees, and if you're off in any championship match by a couple of degrees, you'll get turned over. And biggest shock for the championship so far in football. And I don't know if Ron Monaghan, they're going to have a hard road now to recover. Don't know if we'll see them in Cup Park.
I've watched a lot of Monaghan this year, and I think their key failing is they do not create enough goal chances. They were lucky to get a goal against Fermanagh, where the Fermanagh goalkeeper messed up a kick out. Conor McManus was obviously brilliant for their goal against Cavan, but they never even really looked like creating anything. It was the same in the league. They kick points from distance. They don't carve open the fences, and even through the qualifiers, that could be their undoing. I think when it gets to the serious stuff, they should go their first round of the qualifiers. But after that, I'm not so sure. Anyway, so that's last weekend's action. Before we move on to part 2, the competition for a €25 free bet, courtesy of our sponsors, Paddy Power. And this week's question is a very interesting question, actually. It's one that at least one of our panellists might know. Who was the Galway hurling manager before Micheál Donoghue? So who was the Galway hurling manager before Micheál Donoghue? Tweet your answer with the hashtag Postcast, and the winner will be announced in next week's show.
Paddy's gearing up for the GAA All-Ireland Football and Hurling. For all live TV championship games, it's money back as a free bet if your losing first goal scorer scores a goal anytime. Max £20. Excludes shops. T's and C's apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to the GAA Postcast. I'm delighted to be joined by Anthony Cunningham and Paddy Ahern from our sponsors, Paddy Power. Now, lads, this is the big one. This is what palms are rubbed together for. Galway and Wexford in the Leinster hurling final on Sunday in Croke Park. What a game we have in prospect, Anthony. And let's just speak a bit first about Wexford. What, apart from Davy Fitzgerald, who has brought so much to it, what has been the main difference with Wexford this year and the last couple of years?
I think that they've believed in their ability, really, and have played with huge confidence and huge thrust, I suppose, in their play and their type of play through the league, and then brought that into the championship. And I fancied the hell out of them to beat Kilkenny, because I thought that they'd played on their terms the last day, in a tighter pitch in Wexford Park, play with a sweeper, just bring it into a dogfight, and that's what they did. With 20,000 Wexford Mexicans roaring them on. So I think with a lot of confidence, and they have had a lot of under-21 success. They're backboned as well by the likes of Matthew Hanlon. Jack Guiney, who's been not to the forefront in Liam Dunn's time, but he's an excellent player as well off the bench for them. So they have experience, but they also have that youthfulness as well. That it's a devil may care attitude from Wexford, and it typifies the Wexford spirit. And when Wexford are on a roll, they're very, very hard to stop. And I think this weekend will be a lot closer than people think.
And Paddy, the prices on this one, obviously Galway have been All-Ireland favourites for quite a while now, and Leinster favourites. What's the prices on this and the handicaps?
Yeah, currently it's 1-3 Galway, 10's the draw, 3-1 Wexford. Galway -5 at even money. The handicap draw is 12-1, and Wexford +5 is 10-11.
And what side of that handicap would you be on, or do you fancy Wexford?
I'd probably be in the Galway side, to be honest. I think one thing that we've heard in the last couple of weeks, which is almost unbelievable, to be honest, is this is going to be Lee Chin's first championship game for Wexford in Croke Park. I think he played a football game there a couple of years ago, but this is his first hurling match. And the thing is, it's Lee Chin's first game, but it's a lot of the rest of them as well. So I think that's a kind of a factor that people haven't kind of looked into at all. Like, they kind of had it on their terms against Kilkenny. Like, it was down in Wexford Park, as you say, you had 25,000 Wexicans. They came with a really, really big performance, but I think this is another massive step up. The key is with a huge pitch, if Galway can kind of isolate those one-on-ones like they did against Kilkenny, like they did against Dublin, I think the players and their forwards are going to cause Wexford serious problems. Like, if I had to say I was going to be on either side of it,
you have to say.
Yeah, Galway could win it well. Like, I could see Galway win by 6 or 7, to be honest.
Okie doke, so you're fancying them to defy that 5-point handicap?
Yeah, I would.
Anthony, this Galway team, you obviously know them inside out. Are they the real deal, and are they deserving All-Ireland favourites at this stage?
Well, you can't blame. Some people will say Galway haven't got tested yet, but that's not Galway's fault, really. Easy winners over Dublin, easy winners over Offaly, and had the league final their own way for all of the match, really. So they are playing with huge confidence, and they've matured. That would be the big thing, I think, between Galway this year and the last 5 to 8 years that you've seen Galway teams. I think these guys, backbone by the David Bucks, Joe Cannings, they're at an age now that, 26 to 30, that age bracket, the majority of the team. And then some of the younger players, Conor Whelan's, Jason Flynn's, they're 3 years on the go there now. So they've amassed a good bit of experience as well. So they're very, very experienced. There'll still be a slight doubt on their defence. Have they got tested, and will they get tested? That people will be then fully satisfied that they'll have a right crack at the All-Ireland. But people are justified in saying, yes, they're the favourites to the All-Ireland. They should be based on the performance to date in 2017. And last year as well, and the year before, they were in the final 15. Last year, a puck of a ball in the final. So it all stacks up. And they have their Croke Park experience, and that's a key factor. I would agree with Paddy on that. And I think their breadth of scoring ability is larger than Wexford. They've scored a huge amount even from defence this year, which is an added plus, attacking from wing back onto the midfield area. And Joe Canning's role is really opening up the forwards, and he's bringing a lot of the other players into play. David Burke's really, really solid at midfield. And, Conor Whelan is really on a massive role inside and scoring that will, really. So, others like Conor Cooney, Niall Burke off the bench, or he may even start the next day, or Joseph Cooney coming in. They're all big scorers for Galway. So I think that will be the telling factor in the finish of the match. But I do expect it to be quite close for a while, and particularly with the sweeper system. Sean Murphy playing the sweeper system, but it will be negated somewhat in a larger pitch. But Galway traditionally haven't handled sweeper systems. 2013 Clare in Thurles would spring to mind. They do take a while in matches to get used to that, and Wexford will set up that way, and they'll set up with 4 forwards and two coming deep, and each in a roving role. So that will be difficult for Galway for quite a while. But you would expect that their scoring forwards would win it for point scoring at the end.
Now, Anthony Cunningham, you know each one of these Galway players inside out. I want the name of one player that's been on the fringes maybe this year that's threatening to produce an incredible performance. Give me the name of one player that you think could cut loose on Sunday.
Well, I suppose he's been doing it for the last few matches there, and got man of the match the last day would be Conor Whelan, and you would hope that he'd have the from a Galway perspective that he'd have the legs on the that the Wexford full back line might be a bit vulnerable to his pace and his ability to score. Can he put two matches together in back to back? That's a difficult assignment, but you'd have to say Conor is really on fire, and he's really exciting forward, and maybe try and nip in there with a goal on Sunday.
Well, that comes to my next question, lads. I want a man of the match and a first goal scorer bet from both of you. So we'll give you time to think about it there, Anthony. Paddy, we'll come to you first. A man of the match pick and a first goal scorer pick.
Yeah, first goal scorer. I think from a Galway point of view that Jason Flynn is still the biggest goal threat. Much more in fairness to Whelan, he's an unbelievable point scorer and he's been putting up the last couple of days or the last couple of games. But Flynn, even if you look at he missed a serious chance against Dublin. He was obviously lethal against Tip. So if I had to pick a first goal scorer, I'd go Jason Flynn. I think
what price is he, Paddy?
He's 11-2 with us, and he might be a small bit bigger elsewhere. But I'd go for Flynn for first goal scorer, and you might go a little bit left field. I think here with the man of the match, because if you think back to the Clare game last year, and even the Offaly again the last two, even though they won with 19 points or whatever, what they tend to do is leave Aidan Hart as a free man. He was really, really brilliant against Clare last year. It's a role that really suits him. I actually saw a line about him in the Offaly game that they said his poor hand must have been red raw from all the ball he caught. We're about 20-1 for him to be man of the match, because he's going to get in so much ball, and he's basically going to be the one feeding Canning and feeding the forwards, I'd imagine. You probably might get a bigger than 20-1 on the day, but I'd say Aidan Hart wouldn't be a bad shout.
Okay, dokes. So Jason Flynn and Aidan Hart for Paddy Ahern for Paddy Powers. Anthony Cunningham, your selections for man of the match and first goal scorer?
I'd still go the Galway route. I fancy Conor Cooney. I think he's a very good record in Croke Park getting goals, and
what price is Paddy?
Him as a first goal.
Yeah. We're 9-1 for man of the match, and I think he's about 10s for first goal scorers right now.
10-1 first goal scorer. Conor Cooney, a man of the match, Anthony.
Man of the match, I'll probably go cautious on this one, and I'll go for, if Galway to win, I think Joe Canning will have a big part in it. We'll have to have a big part in it. I'd go for Joe Canning. He's probably shorter odds, but man of the match.
Probably shorter odds.
Yeah.
Probably. I'd say, what price is he, Paddy?
Yeah, we're 11-2 for man of the match.
All right, slightly bigger than I thought. You're playing it very safe there, Anthony.
Well, you'll be slagging me if I have as bad a record as you have. You'll be counteracting me with a lot of blows there, David. Yeah.
That is a very low blow. That one is very, very low. So there you go. That's and before we move on, I want a final. We tried to make things as hard as possible for you here on the GAA Postcast. I want you to guess the final scoreline. So Anthony, we'll come to you first. What do you think the final score will be?
I'll go 122 for Galway, and I'll go 117 for Wexford.
Okay, so right on the handicap line. 122 to 117. Paddy Ahern?
Yeah, it'd be very similar. It'd be 220 Galway, 117 Wexford. 220
Galway, 117 Wexford. Okie doke. So that's Galway and Wexford looked after in the Leinster hurling final at Croke Park on Sunday. Now the hurling qualifiers, lads, we were hoping it would throw up at least one cracking clash, and it has done so with Kilkenny taking on Limerick. Paddy, prices and selections from you on this one?
Yeah, no bother. Kilkenny are 2-7, Limerick are 11-1, or Limerick are 10-3, and the draw is 11-1. And we are currently a 5-point handicap, 10-11 Kilkenny. Handicap draws 5 points, 12-1, and Limerick +5 is even money.
And how do you see this going? This is intriguing. Two teams with plenty to prove on retrieval missions. It's bubbling up nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a funny kind of game to make sense of, to be honest. Like, I don't see Kilkenny being as bad again. I read an interview with Richie Hogan during the week saying he didn't do a lot of training before the Wexford game, and he said in the last 20-25 minutes, just in that cauldron, he just said he emptied out. Like, they really made a mistake playing Pádraig Walsh because he looked way off the pace. And then, like, you look at the Limerick side of it, and I know, like, they ended on the handicap line or whatever, 4 points against Clare, but like the performance didn't merit that at all. I just thought they were much poorer than that. The other thing is Limerick always kind of traditionally they've always nearly saved a performance for Kilkenny. Like even going back the last couple of years, like they haven't been hammered or anything like that. If I had to go on either side, just the Nolan Park factor, it's probably going to be pretty big, and Kilkenny have a point to prove, so I might go. Yeah, like I wouldn't be having a huge bet on it, but maybe Kilkenny -5.
Anthony, Kilkenny and Limerick, which side are you on here?
I'd be on the Kilkenny side. I think physically, Limerick are probably a bit young yet. I think the forwards will find it tough going, even though they're very crafty and very skillful. Kilkenny will make it a dogfight, and I think definitely they're wounded. They're very, very quiet since the last day. Hasn't been much talk at all, but. Better placement of Pádraig Walsh. Probably seen going back into the defence. Better use of Richie Hogan really in the half-forward line. And you definitely see if Jerry Everard, as an example, gets to start again, he won't miss the scores that he missed the last day. So I think they're going to be dangerous and very dangerous in Nolan Park, and I'd be going for a Kilkenny win.
So is this a Kilkenny win, Limerick to lose, a managerial vacancy for next year, and Anthony Cunningham to swoop in? I've got my film.
I have full confidence in John Kiley there and Paul Kinnearick and Alan Cunningham for the next 3 to 5 years there. So, they're definitely, you'd have to admire their underage structure there for the last time, the development squads. Anthony Daly's a big part to play in that as well over the last few years, and I think they're an example to other counties. And they have a lot of players coming through, and a huge lot of players play Fitzgibbon from the Limerick county now. So definitely, I don't think Saturday evening was their day, but I do think that they need to play with abandonment as well. Really, the Limerick style is really a bit more flowing and a bit more open. And I think if they try and force a shorter game on them, as they showed in parts against Clare, I don't think it suits them. But we've had a cracker 3 years ago now. Sorry, up in Dublin, and came within, bar a late Richie Poor goal. They could have turned the tables that day on Kilkenny. But I do think with again a bit like Wexford Park, they'll get a huge Kilkenny following there, and they'll be very vocal, and they'll be back in the race on Saturday night.
So there's also 3 other hurling qualifiers. We've got Offaly v Waterford, Tipperary v Westmeath, and Dublin v Laois. 3 seemingly lopsided encounters, Paddy. What would be the standout bet in those for you?
Yeah, these ones are always kind of tricky to price because you're getting into double figures and handicaps and that. So like we're a 24-point handicap on Tip, we're a 13-point handicap on Waterford. And we've actually had to move the Dublin one because, however bad Dublin was, Laois are just crippled at the minute because Ross King got sent off the other day. Picky Maher did his crew shit. And like when you're looking, like they're probably going to have to play the likes like Care Healy, who would be kind of a midfielder or a backman. He might have to play centre forward. They're kind of really making up numbers. If I had to have a bet, I think there's still a small bit of -8 on Dublin out there, and just how to police Laois are, I'd probably go with that. Just one more thing on the Kilkenny Limerick game as well. I'd be interested to see a price on Richie Hogan man of the match, because he has been kind of struggling with a few injuries, but by all accounts he's back to 100%, and I'd expect a big performance from him as well this weekend.
Okie dokes. And the other 3 qualifiers, Anthony, anything catching your eye?
No, I would have fancied Laois if they had everybody, but I think the likes of Ross King he's a fantastic player. Really, he's been to me one of the players of the championship so far. I've seen them live against Meath in an earlier round. I've watched them there on the TVs the last few Sundays, and they have some fantastic players and young players coming through, but playing Sunday after Sunday. They picked up the injuries, and they won't be able to stay with Dublin. And Dublin, there'll be some fight back on them. And Parnell Park is extremely difficult for a team to go to. The best teams have struggled there, the likes of Kilkenny in the league over the years with a very good team. So I would expect Dublin to cover the handicap. But the other ones, really, it'll be unfortunately one-way traffic. And you'll see Waterford, Tipperary, Kilkenny and Dublin in the draw, I think, on Monday morning.
So a ringing endorsement for Dublin -8 against Laois from our two panellists. So lads, there's also plenty of football action this weekend, and the standout tie is unquestionably the Munster football final in Killarney between Kerry and Cork. Paddy, some prices and handicaps.
Yeah, 1-7 Kerry, 14-1 the draw, and Cork are 11-2. It's a 6-point handicap, 10-11 Kerry. The handicap draw is 10-1, and Cork +6 is even money.
If I remember correctly, I think you tipped Kerry to win the All-Ireland this year?
I did indeed, yeah.
Yeah, are you still pretty confident?
Yeah, definitely.
Workmanlike against Clare?
Ah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. But like at this time of the year, I don't think they have to be, like, obviously we will for this game, but at that time of the year, they didn't really have to go killing themselves. The difference, I think, from now compared to previous years is they just have a really, really strong panel now. Like, they have a couple of kind of young footballers that are kind of struggling to get into the team that maybe bar Dublin, they get in every other team in the country. Like, they're really going the right way. I think that league win was absolutely huge for them. Injuries are completely clearing up now. Like, I mean, James O'Donoghue was flying. If I had to have a bet still in the All-Ireland, I'd be going the Kerry way. I think they're on a massive upward curve.
And Anthony, I suppose in many ways this Cork team will come into this game with a little bit of pressure off their shoulders. They went into the Tipperary game, went into the Waterford game where they were ridiculed and a lot of pressure, hot favourites, stumbled over the line in both games, and now they're going in as huge underdogs. Could we see a much improved Cork display against Kerry?
I think it'll be difficult. I think their performances today have been very, very poor, albeit the second half against Tipperary, against the Winds, they really knuckled down. And they have, I mean, throughout the field, quality players, but their confidence seems to be very, very low. I don't see them getting hockeyed. Typically, Kerry in Munster finals do enough, 4 or 5 or 6 points and that. So I think if Cork put up a good performance and try and hold them to within the 6 points, I think they'll be happy. But I would fear for them on Sunday, because I think Kerry will be a bit like Tyrone in Dublin. They'll want to make a statement, and they'll say there's a good gap between the Munster final and the All-Ireland quarter-final, so they'll want to push as hard as they can there on Sunday. And the last thing they'll want to do is scrape over it and then have question marks over them. But they'll want to keep the roll going, and I fear for Cork, but I can't see Cork making it close. So.
Okay, and like in the Leinster hurling final, lads, I want a man of the match and a first goal scorer pick from you. So, Paddy, you shoot away first there.
Yeah, it's a big price for first goal scorer. Micheál Guinea, there's 20-1 out there. I just think, like in a game like this, there probably will be plenty of chances. He's going to play forward enough. I think he scored a goal or two during the league. So, I think a value bet of 20-1 is pretty good on him. And if I was to pick a man of the match, I'd probably still go with Paul Guinea. He was quite enough against Clare. But he always.
Will this affair ever end between Paddy Ahern and Paul Guinea?
Absolutely not. No.
He must be into your 50 year of a relationship at this stage.
He runs a pub as well. Like, there's a lot to like about him.
Oh, there's an ulterior motive there.
11-2 Guinea. I think he'll have a big game.
Well, as Paul Mannion proved last week, if you do pick a player enough times, he will come up trump. So hopefully Paul Guinea will do the business for you. Anthony, first goal scorer, man of the match in Kerry v Cork?
I go for James O'Donoghue for first goal scorer, and I pick David Moore, I think, for man of the match. I think, I mean, it's from midfield up. I don't think there'll be a lot of pressure, so maybe the defenders mightn't get tested as much as you'd want them. I'd like the Guineas as well in their style of play, that's for sure. But since he's already picked, I'll punt for James O'Donoghue.
A few prices there, Paddy. James O'Donoghue. What price is he?
Yeah, James O'Donoghue for first goal, he's 13-2, and he's 11-2
David Moran, man of the match.
And David Moran for man of the match, I think we are 8-1. Yeah, 8 indeed.
Okay, so some nice prices there. And like in the hurling, lads, I want you to try and guess the final score. Anthony, what do you think the final score will be?
Kerry 3-19 and Cork 1-11.
Okay, dogs. Let me do my maths here. Is that a 13-point win for Kerry? Interesting. 14 actually. Sorry, 14-point win for Kerry for Anthony Cunningham. Paddy Ahern?
I'll go 2-15 Kerry and 1-13 Cork.
2-15 to 1-13. So 5-point win for Kerry for Paddy Ahern. The bet I like in this is Cork to score over 14.5 points at odds against. I think you will see a much improved Cork display in that one. Now, lads, we've got 4 qualifiers as well in the Football Championship. My own demoralised Meath take on Sligo and Park Tailteann. We've got Laois v Clare, Donegal v Longford and Mayo v Derry. These are far more interesting than the hurling ones, really, aren't they? Because there is potential banana skins here, Paddy.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. The two kind of unknowns, like the ones that could go either way are Donegal, Longford and Mayo Derry. Like obviously Longford have a really good qualifier record, but would you be that surprised to see Donegal go in by 9 or 10 either? You may not, because people are going to expect them to have a bit of a backlash from that Tyrone game. Kind of similar to Mayo Derry. Derry are kind of the great unknown as well. Like people even thought Waterford were going to beat them, although they got through that kind of unscathed. And like at this time of year, if you look at last year, Mayo can be kind of slow to get going. There was a couple of bets. It's kind of frustrating because we're the only ones up for a few of them, but I'd be interested to see a price in Sligo to score the first goal against Meath. As like Meath, they're putting up pretty big scores, but they seem to have a real problem scoring goals. I think they played Roscommon in a challenge last weekend as well and still came away scoreless. So I think we're about 5-4 Sligo, but you could definitely get bigger than that closer to the weekend. If I had to pick, I'd say in the match betting at the weekend, I'm thinking Laois. There's a bit of support for Kildare, but the game is in Portlaoise, and I think Laois are starting to
I hope it's Clare.
I think Laois are getting to a backable price, to be honest. I think in Portlaoise, I think like Laois there's a bit of an unknown with Laois as well, but like in Ennis last year, similar enough teams, and Clare won that by a point as well, going off kind of similar prices. I think home advantage have to count for something,
Okay, so Laois to beat Clare and Sligo to get the first goal in Meath and Sligo for Paddy Ahern. Anthony, anything you like in the football qualifiers?
Well, as I said, you would Meath definitely will have a backlash, really, and as you said, they put up a huge score against what would you would think would be a similar team with Sligo and Louth. They'd be of similar standard, so I'd expect Meath to have a large backlash there. Mayo, I think they'll be up and running. I think a bit faster this year in the qualifier. They can't mess around with the likes of Derry. And I would say that Laois, I wouldn't probably back on it, but Laois last year against Clare, as I was involved in it, they controlled the match for most of the match and were leading 3 and 4 points for large spells of it. So, and that was in Ennis. So you'd expect. I think they're in a bit better shape this year. Narrowly, I'd expect Laois to maybe could win that. But if I was to pick one, I'd say Meath. Maybe -4, -5, but that mightn't be the prices that you'd want there. That I don't know what prices they are, but for me.
Meath -4, Paddy. What price is that?
Yeah, it's 10-11.
10-11. So that's not too bad, Anthony.
Yeah.
And just on that Meath-Sligo match, obviously Meath were bitterly disappointing against Kildare. Brian McMahon, I think, picked up an injury in training during the week, and that could open the way for Rory O'Quillan from Navan O'Mahony's to start. He had a real big impact when he came on against Kildare, kicked 2 points. So if there is any individual points player markets in this match, Rory O'Quillan could be very interesting, maybe over 1.5 points, because he's a real exciting young footballer. Meath, probably one of our most exciting young footballers. So that's the qualifiers, and all that's left now, lads, is to pick out the best weekend bets, and that the 2-point handicap could be obliterated. That needs to be changed, Jack. Producer Jack keeps throwing out this Mayo tip that I gave a couple of weeks ago, but unfortunately it did not come up trump. As Anthony alluded to earlier on.
You went to 5
Anthony,
pints in my
your
hand.
best bet of the weekend.
Oh, my best bet of the weekend. That's very difficult. I'd go Kilkenny in the handicap. Or Kilkenny to score over 2.5 goals is probably not high enough odds, I'd say.
Oh, I'd say it's decent enough price. Kilkenny over 2.5 goals. Paddy, what price is that?
Kilkenny over 2.5 goals. Yeah, 7-4. 7-4. So
happy enough with that, Anthony?
Definitely backable.
Yeah.
Lovely. So Kilkenny over 2.5 goals for Anthony Cunningham. Paddy Ahern, your best bet of the weekend?
Yeah, like I said, like there isn't many prices around on that Sligo first goal. I would be quite keen on that, but with what's up there at the minute, I think you can get a price on Jason Flint to score a goal in Galway to win the match. I think that's about 11-5. I think that's a couple of ticks too big, and Jason Flint to score and Galway to win.
Okay, so Jason Flynn for Galway and Galway to win. And I'm going to go for Cork over 14.5 points. I think this could be a high-scoring encounter against Kerry, and I think Cork could put it up to them. They mightn't have enough quality to get over the line, but I think they can keep within the handicap as well. So Cork over 14.5 points. I think it's a shade of odds against. So that's it. Many thanks to Anthony Cunningham and to Paddy Ahern for joining us on this week's show. Plenty to look forward to this weekend. And don't forget to join us next week for the GAA Postcast.
Paddy's gearing up for the GAA All-Ireland Football and Hurling. For all live TV championship games, it's money back as a free bet if your losing first goal scorer scores a goal anytime. Max £20. Excludes shops. T's and C's apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.